Welcome everyone to the Global Mindfulness in Education Summit. I'm really excited to introduce you to Janet Etty-Leal, who's coming to us from Melbourne, Australia today. She's the founder of Meditation Capsules and is a mindfulness teacher and consultant, and she's an author of a book by the same name, and multiple other products, which you can find more about if you click on the speaker bio link below. But she's going to talk to us about her work that she does with students of all ages, from preschoolers right through to secondary, and with teachers themselves, and what's happening in Australia in the field of mindfulness. So thank you so much for joining us, Janet. It's lovely to have you here.
It's lovely to meet you, Helen, and I really appreciate being part of this wonderful initiative.
Great, thank you. So let's start. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you got into the field of mindfulness, or what was an experience that you had of mindfulness, maybe before you even knew that that's what it was called, or that was what it was about.
Well, it's been, I'm sure for you too, Helen, and for many of the people that are tuning in, it's been a journey of a lifetime,
Yeah.
starting decades ago. And my first interest, out of personal need actually, was meditation. And at this stage, I was not all aware of mindfulness. But interestingly, when I look back, I was kind of yearning for it. Because as I explored different modalities, the kind of essence of mindfulness just appealed to me. And it was actually Thich Nhat Hanh's work that was my first the miracle of mindfulness. It was like an epiphany. So that was when I first, and that was probably 30 years ago, I would say.
Wonderful, yeah. It's amazing, all the different journeys and how people got to the place where they are today. So tell us, Jenna, a little bit about what's happening in Australia. Are there any traditions in Australia, or any kind of links to the history of Australian mindfulness?
Well, as it's evolving, and I'm sure this is mirrored worldwide, there's a number of streams. So obviously there's a Buddhist stream, and there are even some schools that are practicing, the Dharma schools. There's one in Dalesford.
Okay.
And then there's a school in Reservoir, which is a suburb of Melbourne, that practices transcendental meditation. The whole school is designed around that program. And then there are all kinds of different entry points for schools with different groups and different. Obviously, we have a strong app-based connection. And so there's different structures and different levels taking place. And of course, there's a bit of an overlap with positive education too. And I'm actually straddling both of those fields because I work for Geelong Grammar School, and I've been working for 11 years. And, so I am literally designing programs every year to combine mindfulness with positive education.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, and very exciting. So would you say that it's growing in Australia? Are people very receptive to it, or are there some challenges to getting it into the school systems?
I think there's a huge burgeoning receptivity, and this is even mirrored by our federal government.
Right.
It's just they've backed Smiling Minds, which is an app-based program, to the tune of millions of dollars. So that's a very positive sign that, really at that level, there is an awareness of the merit and the need for this work in schools.
Oh, that makes me really happy. That's very exciting that, when it gets to the government level and they're investing, then I think we can see real change happening in schools. So that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about some of the work that you do in schools. I know that one of the things that I've read about you and what you like to do is making learning real and relevant for children. And I think we have a common passion of helping very young children. So tell us a little bit about how you do that and what some of the strategies that teachers or parents watching might use to make these kind of practices relevant for young children.
Well, I've found, it's interesting, Helen, I'm sure you found the same thing. I've done a lot of professional development and a lot of research and reading, but I find that I constantly learn in the moment with the children in front of me. And, in a way, they've been my greatest learning resource and my greatest teachers. And what I've found, and I do have a background in teaching, I'm actually originally an art teacher.
Okay.
So what I've really find is that children, we need to remember this is never a prescription, and it's never one size fits all. And we always have to remember that there's what we have in our head, our intentions and what we want to share. But we also need to kind of really think about what are they interested in? What is going to engage them and what is going to bring this to life? Because I think there's a danger if we just introduce practices without preparation and actually doing the groundwork so that children want to practice. The practice have meaning. They have meaning. They land in their heart. They need to kind of speak to the head and land in the heart. So it's sort of finding ways to get that happening so that they are really, and also to engender children as active interpreters themselves. So sort of a sense of agency, self-agency, that they're owning this work. And and it's not going to just be a timetable thing. I'm always saying this to teachers. I'm thrilled if they're going to timetable this, but it's more than that. It's actually a whole way of being, a whole approach to living that needs actually kind of regular dosage, like drip feeding. It's not really enough on a neurological level to give them a kind of intensive dose and then that's it for the week. So that's one of the reasons I call my business Meditation Capsules. The idea was, little doses. So that's when I do teacher training, I'm trying to really share that the palette of possibilities and the holistic entry points to this work.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Jen, and we see quite a lot of things where you want to put in 30 minutes and then that's it, and as you say, it needs to kind of be a way of being and a way of supporting children throughout the day. And I think you do the partnership with parents as well would be very important so that they don't have different experiences at home and then at school. So that's really wonderful. So tell us a little bit about beginner's mind. Maybe you can explain what that means to you for any viewers that aren't familiar with it and why that's so important when teaching mindfulness to children.
Oh, that's, you've hit on such a key point. There are certain cornerstones, aren't there, Helen? And I've just written a very long article for an academic journal, actually, so I've been, really deeply, reflecting on this. And really, the most important prerequisite is actually maintaining a beginner's mind with our own practice. So we're open to evolving and learning, but every time we're with children, because, letting go of expectations and meeting the child or the children where they're at today and picking up cues. And I often find, I always find, that I carefully plan my lesson but I hold the plan lightly because you don't know exactly where the children are going to take it, and I often find that's the case. And so it's this curiosity. When I think of character strengths, and I do a lot because I work, you can see it, that over there it is, you see that
Oh,
coloured,
yeah.
that's the character strength wheel. So I'm often using that as a teaching aid. And really the strengths that pop out to me are two, and they're next to each other on that wheel. And one of them is curiosity. And to me, it's a key cornerstone of mindfulness, this curious beginner's mind, always open to discovery. And so I just, I'm so thrilled you said that, because that is just right there as one of the foundational elements of being mindful, practicing mindfulness, and sharing it with children.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're bringing the positive education and mindfulness together, because I think that's so powerful with children of all ages. Janet, can you maybe share with our viewers one of your favorite practices, or give some advice to teachers watching of what practices you've found work really well with children of different ages?
Well, this is interesting because I now, whenever I start the class, and this is whether it's with 4-year-olds or 18-year-olds,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because, there's such a shift, there's such a change as they get older. But I invite them to take their shoes off. Because, we have that saying, find your feet, and we forget we've got them. They're so far away from all this busyness and where all the noise is. And just that act of bare feet in summer and in winter, feet in socks, and starting the lesson by walking into the classroom and actually feeling the soles of your feet. And I actually very much... I don't know if you've read any of Oliver Sacks' work, Helen.
Yes, yeah.
I just love his writing, and one of his, I've read with awe his book of his autobiography. It was called On the Move, and he actually said in that book, he actually considers proprioception to be the most important sense. Right. So I've really taken that on, and so my initial practice is really getting kids to feel their form, actually the form, the shape. And I use that in my new book. These are the kind of parlance I'm using. What shape are you in? Because actually what shape you're in actually can immediately bring about a shift in awareness and becoming aware of your bones and, how you're holding yourself. And that's where I begin. And so that's really a key core practice, and often core practices in programs of the breath, but I don't go straight there because that can be problematic. I've also, you probably read Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, and I'm finding I just have to be humble with any group of children. I don't know what their life experience, and ultimately I find that some of them are living in dysfunctional families with marital discord and breakups, and some of them tragically are experiencing abuse. And if you take their attention straight in, it can be cause harm. And so I sort of move very playfully and gently and carefully from the whole, and then gradually the outer, and then slowly in, but with using all kinds of, because I'm an art teacher, so I make all my own props, and I'll show you. Here's one.
Yeah, show us some. That would be great.
I use this all the time.
Okay.
And this is amazing because this is much more interesting to look at than me. Children can't take their eyes off this.
Right.
So all you have to do is sort of put it into some, and they know what this person will be feeling. It's just by doing. So you see, these visual images are very powerful. So I actually start with a whole body and a whole range of mindful movements that they're engaging in, and they can feel shifts and changes. So So that's a long answer to that question.
Yeah, no, I love it. Very interesting. And yeah, I like what you said about, we have to be aware that if there's trauma with some of the children, how we approach things. So I think that's a really, really important point. And I would love to attend one of your classes with all your props.
We have to see that, Helen.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit more, Jen, about what's happening in Australia. Are there any kind of major events or conferences or things that our viewers might be interested in knowing about?
Well, there's the Vajrayana Institute, are outstanding Buddhist organisation, and they run exceptional conferences. I've attended them, and I've presented at one. Happiness and its Causes has been running for years, and that embraces the full spectrum. And they've also run other specific conferences like the Mind and Its Potential. They're incredibly hardworking, and they run outstanding events. And they used to run Young Minds, but I think because Australia just doesn't have the population base of some other countries, so they've sort of scaled it back. But they're a constant provider. But now there's also this new stream of positive psychology. So we've just had the IPA conference in Melbourne, and we also have Positive Schools that's touring around the country every year. And now we've got an organisation called PESA, which is the Positive Education in Schools Association.
Okay.
So, considering a small population, there's a lot going on. And then I'm actually the Secretary of Meditation Australia, and we're running our own conferences and master classes. So we do biannually, we do a very large one. Last year we had 60 speakers, and this year we're doing, because we can't keep that up every year, so this year we're doing 2 master classes, one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. So there's quite a bit going on.
Sounds like a lot is going on, which is really wonderful. So just before we finish today, Jen, is there anything else that you think is important that you would like to share, or just any last words that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Well, it's interesting, Helen, because you hit upon one of the really things I'm passionate about, which is the beginner's mind. And the other thing is that really anybody on a mindfulness path and teaching it to children, one of the fundamentals, I think, is to really find ways to bring compassion to life. The idea of compassionate awareness, that is quite an abstract concept for children. So really, when you begin unpacking that and helping them develop their language that is age appropriate and meaningful, and also realizing that you've got this rich palette, of all the senses. So using music, using visuals, using all sorts of sensate experiences to literally help it land with children.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I totally agree, and I loved speaking with you today, Jen. And thank you so much for sharing all your ideas and wisdom. And if people want to find out more about Meditation Capsules and the work that Janet's doing in Australia and around the world, you're not only in Australia, we will have all the links and how to order her book as well. And I just want to say thank you again for joining us and for sharing.
Thank you so much, Helen. So lovely to meet you, and all the very best.
Thank you.